What's up, everybody? This is Kerry. In this video, I'm going to give you my best bets for Super Bowl 58. Now, looking at our record for the NFL playoffs, so far we're 7-6, 53.8% win rate. We've earned 0.65 units. Now, of course, with the playoffs, there are much fewer games, not as many to bet on. And I'm not going to go crazy when it comes to the Super Bowl bets. I do have 4 best bets, including one long shot bet, which I'll show you here in a second. But in general, because I'm always looking at my bankroll and making sure that I'm, getting the positive return on investment, positive units, I do not go and make a whole bunch of bets on the Super Bowl. So conference champions recap, I know that was a long time ago, so I'm not going to go over this too much here. I had a Ravens and 49ers money line parlay. Of course, that didn't work out because the Ravens lost. But I did pick the Lions at an alternate spread at plus 5.5, and that won. Because both of those bets were plus money or plus odds, I actually ended up gaining a few units there, even though I went 1-1. Our Super Bowl best bets. Here we go. So there's a lot to be said now, and we can talk about the odds and the percentages and the underdogs and the Super Bowl and all that. But what I really like to focus on when it comes down to just these two teams and the final game of the season is offense versus defense. So let's check out the Kansas City offense here. Regular season, 21.8 points per game. 351.3 yards per game. And the San Francisco defense has been elite most of the season, 17.5 points per game during the regular season, the first 18 weeks, and 303.9 yards per game. Now, in the playoffs, the Chiefs have stepped it up, 23.3 points per game and 363 yards per game. Now, as I mentioned in my previous video, they did play a banged-up Dolphins defense and a banged-up Bills defense, but they just scored 17 points against the Ravens defense, which has been and was the number one defense in the NFL this season. So they scored on their very first drive of the game. So I feel like the Chiefs are at least putting together a pretty good run when it comes to their offense during the playoffs, and that's good to see. The 49ers, on the other hand, had given up an average of 26 points per game in the playoffs to the Packers and the Lions and 386 yards per game. So you might think, well, there's only 2 games, and that's true. But the 49ers defense has actually done worse in the second half of the season than it had the entire year. And because we saw some of the potential vulnerabilities in the 49ers defense, obviously Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo are going to find ways to exploit those vulnerabilities. So I feel like the Chiefs here are going to be able to score against this 49ers defense. In fact, I'm betting or predicting the Chiefs are going to score around 24 to 27 points. So on the flip side here, look at the Kansas City defense versus the 49ers offense. And Kansas City defense has been really good this year as well, 17.3 points per game, 29.8 yards per game. In fact, they've been in many categories the second best defense in the league this year. So this is definitely the strongest defense the Chiefs has had in recent Super Bowls. The San Francisco 49ers offense has been really good as well, 28.9 points per game, 398.4 yards per game during the regular season. In the playoffs, the Chiefs defense has stepped it up. Now, their offense played a couple of banged-up defenses, but they played the offense of the Dolphins, offense of the Bills, and offense of the Ravens. However, the Kansas City defense has been very strong, put a lot of pressure on quarterbacks, put a lot of pressure on Lamar Jackson. And I feel like this is, in fact, the primary unit here that's going to show up and really determine the outcome of this game. The Kansas City defense is very strong. I think they're going to put a lot of pressure on Purdy. And even though the 49ers have some of the best weapons on offense in McCaffrey, Debo, Ayuk, and Kittle, I really think the Chiefs are going to put a lot of pressure on Purdy, and they're going to force him into some mistakes. So that's the game breaker, in my opinion, the Chiefs defense. And the 49ers offense has been really good in the playoffs so far. Of course, they've had to come back to win. They were down 24-7 against the Lions in the conference championship games at halftime, but then they scored pretty well in the second half. But again, I don't think that against this Chiefs defense here, if the Chiefs get off to a lead in the first half, I think the 49ers are in a heap of trouble. I don't think they're going to come back against this Chiefs defense. And the Chiefs offense can run the ball and exploit the vulnerabilities in the 49ers defense. So there's a lot of strengths versus weaknesses here where I think that if the Chiefs get off to an early lead, the 49ers are going to struggle. So I did this last week with Jared Goff versus Brock Purdy here. And I really like Brock Purdy. I'm not trying to cast shade on him. I just really feel like it's time. We're going to see here that this second-year quarterback is in the Super Bowl under the bright lights. And I know he ran some really cool plays. I just think the spotlight here and the pressure and the Chiefs defense are going to make it really difficult on Purdy. And over here, when we talk about Mahomes, I mean, the reigning Super Bowl MVP, I don't think there's any debate about this one that Mahomes is going to be the quarterback that wins this battle. So, in my opinion. So here are my picks, Super Bowl picks. By what I've just said there, obviously I'm picking the Chiefs. I would definitely put some money on the money line and bet them to win the game. But just to be safe, I'm going to go ahead and take the points plus 2.0. It was 2.5 earlier in this week. I'm recording this video on a Saturday, the day before the Super Bowl. The total, I'm going to go under 47.5. Now, I have a very specific score in mind here, and I have some reasons for that, in which I've just kind of outlined with the strengths versus the weaknesses, offenses and defenses. But I do think this is going to be a defensive game, and I think that both teams are going to want to run the ball more and exploit the weaknesses, potential weaknesses in the other team's defense. So because of that reason, I think there's going to be an early lead by the Chiefs. Then they're going to start running the ball more and more. And that's going to really slow the game down, and they're going to score fewer points. Here it is. I think Purdy's in for an interception. Now, I know he's been great. He's done great so far. He's had a heck of a year for a second-year quarterback. But I really think the pressure and the need for them to try to get back in the game is going to make some pressure, make Purdy get into some potential situations where he might want to throw the ball away, but instead he might get it to the Chiefs defense. And the Chiefs have some really excellent cornerbacks and safeties as well. So that's another pick I'm going to take. And now finally, here's my long shot pick. 24-21. Kyle Shanahan does not go for a lot of 2-point conversions. So what I'm thinking here is that this is going to be a standard, 6-7 points, right? 7 points for each touchdown and some field goals. I don't think there's going to be any extra 2-point conversions or 2-point safeties or anything like that. So a standard score here, 24-21. I think the difference here will be a Harrison Butker field goal to win the game. So that's going to be my long shot bet, 24-21. I'm not putting a full unit on this. This is just going to be a half unit bet at the plus 9,000 odds. Then, that'll be a nice payday if we get the exact score. My other exact score I thought about was 27-21. And I could see Butker getting maybe 2 field goals in addition to all the different touchdowns there. But that would put the total at 48. I really wish that total was at 48. I would much rather have that. But I think that this is going to work out. And this last bet here is, like I said, just a long shot bet. I'm putting half a unit on that, and let's see what happens. Finally, this is the last video for the NFL season. I've had a great time doing these videos. I'm really looking forward to doing this again next year, and I'm going to make some changes there and make some modifications to the way everything looks and try to improve this and make it look a bit more professional, more snazzy. But what's coming up next? After the Super Bowl, I'm going to take a couple weeks break, not do any videos there, but I am doing work behind the scenes. And the work I'm going to do is on the next big sporting event, at least in my mind, and one that I'm really looking forward to. I think you all know what that might be. Let's go!